I am so excited to finally bring to you my method of blending paint on furniture and bringing you this. Welcome back to the Broken Masterpiece, where you're going to find all things furniture flipping and a little bit of DIY, but today we get to focus on blended paint on furniture. You can check out a lot of my other videos on how to prep furniture for paint, but today I'm going to skip that part. So basically you clean it, you get the hardware off, you scuff sand it, and now we're just going to go straight to the priming. And so I'm using Wise Owl's primer, and I'm using a cabinet roller, so they're very fine and it gets on a really smooth layer. For blending paint colors, you can check out Brush by Brandy's top 20 blended paint colors, and that's what I did to pick my colors for this. Now I'm using Dixie Belle's paints, but you can use any sort of mineral paints. They all blend really well, but I do know that Dixie Belle's paints are meant to blend together. And so if you've seen any Brush by Brandy stuff, she's incredible. She's the inspiration behind me trying this method in the first place. So just want to give a shout out to her. She's awesome. The colors I chose for this is Dixie Belle's Spanish Moss, Collard Greens, and Cocoa Bean. I wanted my shading to go from dark to light on the inside with a little bit of variation. And so I started with the darkest color, the Cocoa Bean, right on the perimeter, and I did all the trim work with that dark color. Your first layer is you're just getting it on there, you're gonna get it smooth, you're gonna put it about where you want it. So you can't mess this up, you just gotta get it on there. It goes over that dried primer really well. And if it starts to dry out and you're pulling it at all, just mist it with your mister bottle and you'll be good to go. But basically you're just gonna get the paints where you want them to be. And then I'm going to show you that if you use 3 different brushes, one for each of your paints, you're also going to use an eraser brush to start the blending process. I'm wearing a painting suit in this, and I wear a painting suit for this so that I can wipe my eraser brush right on my suit, so it acts kind of like a huge paper towel. Or you can have a roll of paper towels on hand or a rag to wipe your brush off should you get too much paint off it, especially when you're erasing. Like, think about it as your eraser brush. You're kind of pulling that paint off in between, and so you need somewhere to put that paint to get your brush dry to go back through and blend some more. In next week's video, we're going to focus on the front of it. So this week's, we're just focusing on the sides and the frame and the getting started. So as you can see, I'm going through with that darker brush first, and I'm getting the frame done. I've already stained the top at this point, and so I'm just getting it on super smooth. You can go side to side, you can go up and down. You are just getting the paint on and making it look as smooth as possible. You are going to sand this first coat down to get rid of any brush marks, because the second coat, you're going to use more of your mister bottle to get your paint on, and that is going to make it so smooth that you're not even going to tell that you brushed it on. It's going to look like a professional spray job. I do have an entirely other video on how to hand paint furniture like a pro, and so if you are new to this, go check out that other video. I'm going to link it right at the top there, and that goes over very slowly how to use mist in your paint to get it to lay really smooth and to dry level so that you don't have rough paint marks and drips and all that jazz. Now I wanted to try my hand with this first coat to begin the blending process, and so I did pull out my mister bottle and I started to pull one paint into the other. And so you're not going to have these distinct colors, they are going to look like a blend of all 3. And so as I'm starting to go, I'm going from the outside in, I'm using the medium brush, and then I have to add more light in the middle, and so I'm just going to let you watch me paint for a little bit. It's going to be a lot slower on next week's video as I do the front of it. It will be in real time. So make sure that you're subscribed for that, because you'll get notifications that it's coming up next week. Now, my biggest advice for blending paint for your first time is don't give up. Don't think that it looks bad or it doesn't look as good as that person's that I saw online. This is fun. This is paint. You just get to be creative and you get to create something that is unique and done with your hand. And so enjoy the process. Put on some music, grab a beverage, but just sit there and just enjoy and just create. Nothing is perfect, and it's always going to need some improvement in certain areas, but what you get to do is fun. And so just enjoy it. You can always sand back down once it dries and give it a whole new coat. After you finish that first coat, you're going to give it a light sand with 220 or 320 grit all over. Then, so as you can see, my mister bottle right there is like squirting water out. Yeah, I had another one coming in the mail, but it didn't come in time. A mister bottle should spray a very light mist continuously. Mine was not doing great, so I was having to work very quickly. But the second coat should be over a very, very smooth surface. And this is when you really start to grab your design and work very carefully and just go back and forth, use different brushes, clean your brushes if you need to, have multiple on hand so that you can really blend this well, and remember which one you pick up in your hand. You'll get a really good feel from the different brushes that you use, and I'll link these all in the description below, but from all the brushes that I've used, Zebra is probably my favorite. That round brush that I'm using on the right hand side there, that one worked really well as a blender. It spread really well, but also my fan brush worked great too. For both sides, they're each a little bit different, but as you can see, if I don't have enough white in the middle, then I'm gonna, not white, but the lightest color I was using, then I add more of it and then I blend that in. Remember, with the drawers, you're always going to paint the lips and the sides of them at the end, but you really want to know that because you're blending paint, you might have to blend it on a little paper before you apply it to get it very similar to the coats that you already put on. As I'm finishing up with the sides, the next advice I want to give to you is use a really light touch. When you are pulling in or pulling out or wherever you're starting, you don't want to dig in on the piece. You want your piece to glide over and just bring the paint with you. And so as you're moving up and down and side to side, just make sure that there's a really good glide. If it catches at all or if it pulls, you don't have enough water on your surface. Remember, you can always do a third coat if you're not satisfied with it. I just happened to do 2 on this piece and I was really happy with it. It wasn't perfect, but it turned into something so beautiful and it sold for a really good profit. So stay tuned next week. I'm going to show you how I do the front.